What's up, everyone? Welcome to the January 6th edition of DraftKings Tournament Plays presented by Jock Market. I'm your host, Adam Scherer. You can follow me on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And as a reminder, Jock Market will match 100% of your first deposit up to $50 using the code Awesemo. Today, we're going to take a look at 5 of the top tournament options on DraftKings. Only a 4-game slate tonight, so not quite as much news to deal with as last night or most slates, but still keep in mind a lot of stuff changes throughout the day. You're likely to see changes in ownership projections, player projections. Be sure to tune in to the deeper dive and live before lock from 5:30 to 7:30 Eastern on our YouTube channel. Starting at number 5, Julius Randle, $10,000 on DraftKings, power forward eligible. He's projected for 15% ownership with a 17% chance of being in the optimal lineup. There's not a whole lot in the way of pay-up options tonight, so it makes a $10,000 price tag on Randle not quite as unappealing as it normally would be because you do need raw points somewhere. There is going to be some value on tonight's slate, and we know that Randle's still capable of giving you 50-plus fantasy points. He played about 39 minutes in his first game back from the COVID list. That was a game where he was questionable. He was a game-time decision for conditioning reasons. Obviously, the conditioning is not an issue. He has nearly a 30% assist percentage without Derrick Rose or Kemba Walker on the floor this year. So you can expect peripherals to be there, as they usually are. He's also likely to be the highest usage player on the team and, again, play a ton of minutes. So Julius Randle projected to go a little bit under-owned tonight on a slate that doesn't have a lot of pay-up options. Number 4, Jalen Smith at $5,300 with power forward and center eligibility. He's projected for 19% ownership with a 23% chance of being in the optimal lineup. This is one of the most volatile spots on the slate, I think. We've seen 2 games now where Jalen Smith has started and Bismack Biyombo has been the backup. In the first game, the Suns won by 33, 34 points, something like that. So we didn't get to see a closing lineup. In the first half, you basically got the minutes split between Jalen Smith and Biyombo. Smith opened the first quarter and the second quarter. Biyombo closed both quarters. In the second half, Smith started the half. Biyombo came in, but then the game got out of hand and we didn't get a closing rotation, so we don't know what we were going to see. In the second game, we had foul trouble for Jalen Smith. He had 4 fouls. He also was injured mid-game and went to the locker room, so he missed some playing time then. So it's really difficult to take too much away from the rotations in that game. We do know that Bismack Biyombo closed that game, however. So the downside argument for Smith is that you could conceivably see, even without foul trouble or anything, you could see a 24-24 split between Smith and Biyombo. You also could see this game just go smaller against the Clippers and, you don't get either one of them in the closing lineup, but that's a possibility as well. But the upside argument for Smith is that if he still gets to 26, 28 minutes, somewhere in there, he's a very good per minute fantasy producer. He's averaged over 1.1 DraftKings points per minute this year, and he's only $5,300. So if you get that sort of average scenario where he plays 24 minutes, he's still likely to be decent at 5,300 and not really hurt you. But if he plays well and does get into the closing lineup, for example, and gets 26 or 28 minutes, he absolutely could be necessary in tournaments. So it's a really volatile spot. I think it's a really tricky spot to approach since we don't really have a good idea of what to expect. But right now, with his ownership projection as low as it is, he looks great in tournaments. Number 3, Mikal Bridges at $4,900, also a member of the Phoenix Suns, obviously. This team is still a bit shorthanded in the front court. You have no DeAndre Ayton, no Jay Crowder, no Landry Shamet. And we saw Mikal Bridges play 41.8 minutes last game as a result. I think that was likely to happen. So it's not something that I'm looking at now and saying, oh, I wonder if that's going to happen again. I'd had him projected for 40 minutes for that game. So him playing 42 wasn't really surprising. I don't think that it's unlikely to happen again. I think you're probably going to get around 40 minutes from Bridges. You have to soak up the 25 minutes that Landry Shamet was going to play. We saw Cam Payne not play that many minutes alongside Chris Paul, so he didn't take them. You can only give Justin Jackson and Ish Wainwright and Elfrid Payton so many minutes before you're just making your team worse. So it's likely that you see a lot of extra minutes for Mikal Bridges. He is projected for 17% ownership with a 24% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Number 2, still sticking with Phoenix, Cameron Johnson, $5,300, projected for 32% ownership, has a 36% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Like Mikal Bridges, you get more solidified playing time for Johnson. He played 35.1 minutes last game, and it's just really difficult to see those minutes going anywhere. And the nice thing about Bridges and Johnson both is no matter what the closing lineup is, whether, or at least I should say, no matter whether the game plays big or small down the stretch, they have a place on the floor. You either have Bridges and Johnson on the wings, or you have one of them playing center and the other one at the four. Either way, whether it's big or small, they should both be in the closing lineup, and Johnson's still underpriced here. And then number one, Jaren Jackson Jr., $6,100, power forward center eligible, 35% chance, 35% ownership, 39% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Jackson's always one of the most volatile players on a slate, and that's not any different tonight. You have foul issues with him. He fouls at a high rate. But also of concern is that Memphis hasn't really been giving him a lot of minutes anyway, at least in the context of what they could potentially give him. He's someone that at times this year, when he was able to avoid foul trouble, you were seeing 34, 35 minutes. Now he gets to 30 or 31 minutes typically when he avoids foul trouble. When he's in foul trouble, you're still, of course, getting less. So he is risky, but as a result, the price tag keeps dropping as well. He has about a 25% usage rate in the games that he's played with Ja Morant this year. You're probably getting Dillon Brooks back in the lineup, but Desmond Bane is out, so that helps even out some of that usage. Jackson's still a very high upside option, and his price tag keeps dropping. So to recap, the top 5 tournament options on DraftKings: Julius Randle, Jalen Smith, Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson, and Jaren Jackson.